Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Monday. Happy Mailbag Monday. TM, we invented that. No one else can do it ever. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. Thanks for joining us. Smash that like button for us on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the page as well. If you're listening on the podcast apps, that's cool too. Make sure you are following or subscribed there. And if you're feeling nice, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It is Mailbag Monday, like I said. There are a ton to get to. Anything we need to hit before we begin the mailbag segment, or should we just get right into it?
I mean, we had an awesome weekend of hockey.
Yeah.
Pretty decent weekend of hockey.
Yeah, I love the fact that both Saturday and Sunday, it was nonstop. There were no overlapping games unless they went to overtime, which almost all of them did, at least on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been treated well with some – we could spend the whole hour just talking about some of the nonsense that happened over the weekend, but we've got lots of questions to get to.
Do we have to give credit to the Leafs for getting tough? If we were critical of them for not being tough, they've sort of battled back and won some tough games.
You got to win some shitty games.
They stole that one, Game 3. So let's see what the response is tonight. Here's the thing about that game real quickly. I know we kind of have a question about it later, so I'll get to that when we get to that question. Mm-hmm. But and we can't not congratulate the Rockford IceHogs for getting everyone in Iowa fired and advancing on to the next round of the Calder Cup playoffs.
That old 2-game sweep.
Yep. They both games in overtime, no surprise there. And so they're on to the regular season division champ Texas Stars, best of 5 series in the division semifinals, and they get to host the first 2 games
Friday and Sunday. So I think I know I'll be out there both days for sure. I'll be there Friday.
It'll be fun, and we're going to most likely have some Ice Hog players on at some point this week working on the details of that. So stay tuned.
Yep.
We'll get a couple of those guys on before the series starts on Friday. So, kind of interesting that they're the lower seed, but they get the first 2 games of the series at home. But I guess that's travel. They want to make sure
you're not going to go
2-2-1.
Yeah.
So
to Texas and stuff.
Gives the Ice Hogs a little bit of advantage because if you defend home ice, you go back to Texas only needing to win once on the road.
It's huge.
1 out of 3.
So we'll see what happens. Texas is a real good team. There's some revenge. It was the Ice Hogs beat Texas in the play-in series last year with both games in Rockford. So you do what you did last year, you're going back to the Lone Star State in pretty good shape. So we'll see.
And they had a winning record against Texas this year. 5-3 in 8 meetings. So
should be fun. Texas is always a really fast, well-coached team, and should be a good series. So I'm looking forward to getting out there Friday night.
Was it right? 9 of 14 games against Iowa went to overtime this year?
9 of 14 went to overtime.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we saw a lot of what they do in that game in Iowa, a lot of post-whistle junk. Iowa
they tried to get physical.
Loves to do that stuff. They've done it for years under Dick Army, which is a great name. Well, it's not Dick Army. No.
Tim Army.
Tim Army. Dick Army is the old
Dick Army's the fans.
Dick Dick Army was a senator, wasn't there? Wasn't there Richard Army?
I think so.
A longtime senator. Yeah, but Tim Army. But based on some of the ways his team plays, Dick Army could be a but he's now no longer employed.
Yeah, the Ice Hogs are getting people fired left and right.
Let's do it. I love it.
Nice to see.
And prospect playoffs continue this weekend. Seattle is in the WHL Conference Finals against Kamloops. That starts on Friday. Sarnia will take on the London Knights in the OHL Conference Finals. That also starts this weekend, Friday or Saturday, I can't remember. And then in the queue, you got Gatineau taking on not Sherbrooke. They are taking on Quebec in the QMJHL Conference Final. So
Daniel Savoie
50
with points in the series.
Savoie with Gatineau. That would be great for him to break out at this point. That'd be great. You got Ethan Del Mastro with Sarnia, and then you got Colton Dock, Nolan Allen, and Kevin Korchinski with Seattle. So a lot of prospect playoff action for the Blackhawks while the Stanley Cup playoffs go on without the Blackhawks.
Friends of the show doing well. And speaking of that, if you missed Friday's podcast with Mackenzie Entwistle, go back and give it a listen. was really good stuff. We revealed our long-running joke about the unfortunate demise of his family, and he laughed, so that was good.
Yeah, took it well.
He got a chuckle out of it.
That was really good. I went back and watched that, as everyone should too. It's a lot of good little bits of insight, and he really gave us more than just kind of some generic responses or things that we'd heard all season from various players. About how the year went and how Luke Richardson came in and his relationship with Jonathan Toews, and how that all played out. And yeah, it was a really good interview. So go back, take a listen to it after today's show is over, and just kind of ingest all of that from a young Mackenzie.
Or open 2 tabs and listen to both at once.
Sure, if you can do that.
Yeah, save some time. All right.
2 tabs. Wow.
Let's tear open our bursting sacks of mail, shall we?
Sure.
All right. The first one comes from Sung Hyun.
This is from our diehard Discord.
Yes. What's the best player available we can get at 20 with the Tampa Bay first-round pick we have?
Well, that's going to be hard to tell.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how.
There's a lot of good players in that range.
Yeah. We don't know how the draft board's going to fall, say, after the top 4 or 5. Things could get weird. There could be guys that we weren't expecting to be available at 20 that are all of a sudden there, or there are guys that we targeted at 20 that are taken at 10, 11. So to just pinpoint and say this guy is going to be the best guy available, I can't really say that. But there's a lot of options there.
Yeah. A lot of good players.
2 guys that stick out the most to me that I like at that spot. I don't know if either of them are going to be available, but they're projected to be around there. If Gavin Brindley from the University of Michigan is there, that's a guy I'm very high on. He fits that Kyle Davidson mold. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's got that high energy, gets to the tough areas of the ice. Played at Michigan, so he's got some familiarity with Frank Nazar and possibly Adam Fantilli. You could have maybe 3 Michigan guys who have experience together. But he had 38 points, 12 goals, 38 points in 41 games for Michigan. So that's a really good season. He's a very effective player. Played on the World Junior stage as well. So if he's there, I definitely want to grab him up. I don't know if he's gonna be there, to be honest with you. I think
he'll be in that range.
Yeah, and then another guy I like is another college player. And I've mentioned him before, is Matthew Wood out of University of Connecticut. If you want size, this is your guy. 6'3", 190 pounds. He plays both center and the left wing. For University of Connecticut, he had 11 goals, 34 points in 35 games. And then here's what I look at these guys. Played 2 tournaments for Canada, U18, both the Hlinka Gretzky Cup and the under-18 World Juniors. Is that still going on? That's still going on, isn't it?
That's going on right now, yeah.
But between those 2 tournaments, he's played 8 games on the international stage. He has 4 goals, 8 points. So he's a point-per-game guy in the international tournaments. I take that more than I put more weight into those types of stats than the NCAA stats, because you're not playing top-level notch competition every night.
Yeah.
But when you're playing in, the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, the World Juniors, U18.
Best players of your age group.
Yes, from all around the world.
Yeah.
So being a point-per-game guy at that level is more impressive than being a point-per-game guy at the University of Connecticut. Both are great. So that's a guy.
Sure. It's a little more telling.
Yeah, but he's a guy that can do it wherever he's at. And Matthew Wood is a guy that if his name is called with that Tampa pick, I'm going to be happy. But there's tons of options.
There's a lot of options, and the best thing for the Blackhawks is, outside of their first pick in the draft this year, they're going to have a lot of options in that like 20 to 50 range, which is where it'd be great for them to absolutely knock it out of the park with the first pick that they have. But if they can find 2 or 3 or 4 really solid players in the rest of those picks, hopefully all of them hit. But if you can find 3 or 4 in that range too, like you already have a successful draft, and you're not even into the 3rd round. There's going to be a lot of options there.
I want to appeal to Kyle Davidson, who I know is watching. please draft Quentin Musty from Sudbury. That is just the greatest name in the draft.
Quentin Musty.
And it sounds like an old prospector or something.
You just want to, but you don't want to sit above the penalty box when he gets a call.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. But Quentin Musty is a great name, and worthy pick too. But
yeah,
it's just I love going through the names every
There's
year.
some good ones,
By the way, it feels like we're kind of spinning back from the, Jackson Stauber, JAXSON, and all the like extra superfluous Y's and X's and all the kids. We're getting back to like Wills and Adams, and like the names are starting to like get back to a little more traditional. It's not just
the pendulum always swings.
like Riley, REIGALEIGHY. Like, okay, it's
absolutely.
RILEY. Come on, let's slow down. It seems like the names are getting back. So.
Gabe Perreault is a guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say Gabe Perreault is someone.
He's popular. A lot of guys, a lot of people like him. There's a connection. He's Yannick Perreault's son. Of course, Yannick Perreault has been a development face-off wizard coach with the Hawks since the 70s, it seems. So there's a connection there. Yep. He should be available at 20.
What he's doing at the U18s right now, though, is
might be
potentially shooting him up the boards a lot.
2 weeks ago, 20 might have been a stretch for him because he was like that borderline second round guy, either maybe one of the last couple picks of the first or top 5 in the second. And yeah, as you mentioned, the way he's done it. I mean, just look at his last 5 games. He's got 5 goals and 13 points.
Yeah, pretty darn good.
Pretty good. So his stock is rising. So he went from a guy that went from like, well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch at 19 or 20 to he might not be there at 19 or 20. But there's a connection there. He wouldn't be a bad pick at that spot either.
If he's available at 20, I think to answer the question, he's probably best available at 20. If the Blackhawks end up picking there, I know anything could happen with the Lightning pick if they move on and whatnot, but if 20 is there and Perreault's on the board, I think he would be the best player available.
All right. Next up, we got a question from our Discord from USM0506. When the Blackhawks aren't in the playoffs or after they're eliminated, what is your rooting ranking? For me, it's the Bruins, original 6 Canadian team, one that hasn't won in a while, or / at all, 50 miles of crap, Blues, Red Wings, Canucks.
I like 50 miles of crap's odds this year.
50 miles of crap. That's that was my favorite Butthole Surfers record.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That works. Yeah.
It's hard. Like, I don't know if I have a default backup team.
I really don't.
I think it has to do with like circumstance, who's on the team at the time. Like, I'm telling you, like growing up, I love the Canucks. I was a huge Pavel Bure fan. I love Trevor Linden. Like there's a lot of their uniforms are great back when it was the black, yellow, and red. Like I love those. They're great now too. Make no mistake. But then the rivalry happens. You're like, well, F those guys forever.
Yeah. And
now they've kind of normalized again. So I don't know. It kind of varies. It's like I said, this year I find myself rooting for the Wild just because I'd like to see them do well. I think they're like a nice little scrappy group of dudes that no one is really counting on to win, but they're pretty talented. But in playoff seasons, I could see myself hating the Wild because they're going to be a Hawks rival again at some point. So it kind of changes.
Anytime the Blackhawks have been in the playoffs and eliminated, I don't think I've ever found myself rooting for the team out of the Western Conference.
Yeah,
because I've wanted it to be the Blackhawks. So usually it's been okay. Well, maybe someone in the East can win as long as it's not the Red Wings. I think like you said, like it comes down to who's on the team. Is there someone cup chasing that would be really fun to see? For me, growing up, I had a cousin that was drafted by the Rangers in the early 2000s, which was a lot of fun to kind of see that happen. So the Rangers have always kind of been like, well, if it's not the Blackhawks, I guess the Rangers are kind of cool. This year for me, the added value of having Patrick Kane there, I think makes it a little bit easier for me to continue to be like, it'd be cool if the Rangers, kind of did their thing. I know Greg doesn't like to hear that, but
there's only one player that got me to root for the Rangers once, and that was Steve Larmer.
Steve Larmer.
That was it.
Makes sense. So I think for me this year, I would say it would be interesting to watch the Rangers. It'd be beneficial for the Blackhawks if they went pretty far, but it's interesting to watch the Rangers, see what they do. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with Connor McDavid and the Oilers. Like they saved themselves from being down 3-1 in the series with the OT win, thanks to Zach Hyman. And I mean that's I mean, that's like Crosby won a cup early, but watching Ovechkin like fight in the playoffs, he never won. It's going to be interesting if McDavid gets to that point where it's just like, man, like he's one of the best, if not the best player that's ever been around, as far as his skills and his talent and, his hockey gifts, but he's never won the cup. Like that's going to be interesting if he gets to that point in his career, kind of like Ovechkin was, where it's like he's one of the best that's of his generation and he's never won a cup.
Yeah.
So, seeing McDavid win it this year would be very interesting. And then, I really like Joe Pavelski. He's a guy that's, done pretty much everything in his career except win a cup. So it'd be cool to see him do it with the Stars. He's back on the ice today, which is a good sign. So, yeah, I'd say rooting interest for me, Rangers, Oilers, Dallas, I'd be okay with those teams.
Yeah, I tend to find myself rooting for players more than teams.
Yeah.
Like, I'm rooting for the Oilers because I want to see Connor McDavid as much as possible. I want to see him in a Stanley Cup final. Leon Draisaitl, I mean,
they're fun to watch, man. The whole team.
That Leon Draisaitl said, nope, we're not going down 3-1 to the Kings. Like, we're doing this. And, like, I love stuff like that. I've changed in the middle of a series on which team I'm rooting for based on, like, stories or actions. Like, I love chaos, so I like to root for the underdogs. Or if a team that I start rooting for does something like really shitty during a game, like, well, screw that. I don't want these guys to win. So
that's the best part of not having a rooting interest is there's no consequence to being well, screw it. I'm gonna root for this team now.
Or if I root for a team in the first round, I might root against them in the second round. Like it doesn't. I don't really stick. Like if there's one team in each side I want to go far outside of the Oilers and Connor McDavid. I've always liked the Carolina Hurricanes. I like them, even though they're dropping like flies. It's going to be the Chicago Wolves here. The Islanders are pretty much like, well, we can't beat them, so if we just eliminate all of them,
just kill them all.
We may have a chance. So I can't wait to see the boring ass, dirty Islanders get eliminated here in another game. And then, selfish reasons. Another long playoff run for the Colorado Avalanche benefits the entire All-City network.
Yes, it does.
It's also fun to watch.
And they're a great team, yes. Cale Makar is another player, along with Connor McDavid, I cannot get enough of. You put him on my TV every night, I'm going to watch. But, 22, 23 watch parties at the DNVR bar for the Avalanche does us all a lot of good. So go Avalanche. Keep filling up those cash registers in Denver for us. That's
and it gives them something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, some people might think that's boring, but I kind of like it.
Yeah. All right, next we got one here from G.A. Ross, 18, from Discord. Who do the Hawks take if they fall out of the top 3? Would they consider trading the pick?
The furthest they could fall is 5.
Yeah. So we're talking 4 or 5. Would they trade that pick? I think so. 3, 4, 5 they'd consider trading for the right offer. I don't think you shut down anything aside from 1 and 2.
No, but it's got to be an amazing offer.
If you got 5 and someone's like, we're going to give you like 7 and 15 or something, you're like,
sure.
But, I mean, you didn't do this whole season to just then trade the pick.
No, but I think that scenario, if they're at 5 and a team at like, if the team behind you or 7 or 8 or something says you can have this year's first and our second this year and maybe a second next year or something like that, you might consider it a little bit because outside, if you get to 5 and the Blackhawks aren't enthralled with, whoever's best available, let's say, and they say, you know what, we can add more picks and there's someone, maybe it's a situation like last year where, they really were high on Korchinski, so they made the effort to go and get him at 7 when we were like, well, Frank Nazar's there, but if they know that Nazar is going to potentially be available later. So if that happens again this year where it's just like, we know we like guy X, like, and he's going to be available at 8, but we would take him at 5. If a team comes and say, hey, we want 5, and they get to 8 and they're like, well, we know he's going to be there, then there's a scenario in which they can do that. I would be shocked though if any of the players that are projected 1 through 5, 1 through 6 are not at the top of their board because they all make a difference on your team immediately.
It would have to be a good offer to make sense because it's like a hard pill to swallow, I think, for people to be like, well, we did all this so you could pick 10th overall.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. I think you'd have to talk about something overwhelming and something you really can't say no to.
You definitely don't rule it out.
But you could see some team, middle of the draft, saying, hey, like, we think Mitchkov is going to be great. we're willing to wait because our window is open. Maybe you look at a team like Boston or a team like Tampa, they've got good young talent, but the veterans are starting to age out. So 3, 4, 5 years down the line,
they don't have any picks left. They gave
that's
them
a
all
good
for
point.
Tanner.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like teams in that sort of
like
situation
that, yeah.
where they could say, all right, we wait for Michkov. He'll be ready when the next group is ready to take over, so we don't really have to rebuild, and they're willing to give up a haul to get it. I don't know. I look, I'm not saying the Hawks should be looking to trade out of it, but unless it's one or two, I'm keeping my ringer on.
Yeah.
You know, unless it's Bedard, unless it's Fantilli, I'm listening on everything else.
It doesn't hurt to listen.
Right.
Right.
But I'm not actively shopping it. But if it's like a Brendan Hagel where it's like, oh, I can't say no to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then sure. But again, it's going to be tough to be like, well, we did all this losing just so we can now pick 17th. And then, well, but we got 3 more second-round picks over the next few. Those aren't flashy.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the fan base wants that guy that
Agree.
they connect the pain that they went through this season that's worth it.
Yeah.
Not saying that making a pick where you get more, making a trade where it benefits you more is not a bad thing. It's just to the fan base that's going to cause a lot of outrage about, hey, we went through all this crap just so we could pick 18th and 20th in the first round and get 2 more second-round picks.
Yeah, and I would say based on what Kyle Davidson said about the draft at the end of the season and kind of what they're looking at, and specifically what he said about Matvei Michkov, and not being available to us tomorrow doesn't exclude you from being on our draft board.
Right.
I think wherever they fall 1 through 5, the Blackhawks are in a situation that I think they would be very happy just taking best player available. So if they're at 4 and Michkov or Carlson is available, I think they make that pick. If they're at 5 and it's, Michkov or Will Smith or Zach Benson, I think they make that pick and can be completely content with it. Because let's say they get an offer for you can have 15 and, early second round, we have 35 and 41. Like, all of that would be well and good, but at 15 and those depth picks, you're not going to get a guy in the top 5 who, 4 of them you can say are franchise changers, and the guys just outside that top 4 are really, really, really good.
Yeah, you went through the pain of this season to draft your prospect pool's best prospect this year. And if you trade back to mid-first round, you're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Narfin makes a good point. He says to trade back, it has to be a franchise ruiner for whatever team wants their pick.
I've heard that term before.
Yeah, and those don't tend to come to fruition as much as we think they will.
It's
We were gonna
for 1 since this show has started.
We were going to ruin a franchise for Alex DeBrincat, and, that didn't really happen.
Hey,
Helped our franchise.
Ottawa still sucks, though, so they got that going.
They don't
for 'em.
suck as much.
They suck less.
They suck slightly less. Had they had a goaltender this year, they'd probably be in the playoffs.
True.
All right, let's do one more before our first
Had they
break
kept
here.
Philip Gustafson.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to
they-
give a quick shout out to you guys basically just answered this question, but Alexandre Faripa send in any preference you guys have in trading up and trading back for which player in the Tampa pick. So
Trade up for Bedard. I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Those was my rules, yeah.
All right, Cole with a good one says, when does the campaign to bring Phil Kessel
It
to
already
Chicago start?
has.
It never
Last
ended.
spring.
Never
It
ended.
never ended. It's an ongoing campaign.
But if you need a starting point, for me, it was the final game of the year against the Flyers where I wore my shirt with the little hot dog.
Yeah.
On it. So, that it's never ended for me and
Yeah,
won't end.
36 points this year.
yes.
Like, he's
Like,
an
he
effective
is-
player.
he is-
played
he
in
is-
all 82 games.
Yeah.
He is backside of the mountain, Phil Kessel, which is just fine by me if he wants to spend half a season in Chicago and then get traded at the deadline for his next cup run.
Come be entertaining, come sell some tickets, come score some goals, and then go try to win.
Come fill some space in our salary cap.
And Bill wants to know when I'm going to shave my beard. I will shave my beard tomorrow.
Better have
You
that,
heard it here.
Better have that. on
It
the
is
charger.
tomorrow.
As soon as Mario slacked it as today the day, I literally said I need to charge it, and I did. It is charging in my bathroom. We don't want it to die halfway through the show.
Oh,
And have me with like half beard.
that might actually be better.
Some of us
That would be better.
We got to figure out the logistics of that. Like, am I just going to do it right here and put my little bib on? I don't know. We got to figure it
Could
out.
do that.
I suppose so.
We'll have that
I
meeting.
warned
after
my
the show.
wife. She's like, I don't hate it when you shave. I'm like, okay.
My I asked my wife, I was like, are you all right with because I didn't even ask her. I was just like, I'm just going to grow a playoff beard for the Ice Hogs. And I asked her the other day, I was like, hey, by the way, is this fine? Like, are you all right that I'm doing this? You know, I don't have to do it. And she was just like, well, you know that I do like when your beard is shorter, but it's your beard. You can do what you want with it. I was like, okay, well, keep it long.
When we start dictating our partner's shaving habits, it's a slippery slope.
It could
really
be.
nice of you to ask, though.
It could be if that's your preferred shaving habit.
Slippery slope?
Yeah.
Whatever makes you happy.
Anyways.
Whatever works for you. Anyway, want to tell us about some shades?
Yeah, you want to go down some slippery slopes with some cool sunglasses on.
Speaking of slopes, Shady Rays has ski goggles.
They do,
by the way.
they
Not
do
just
have
sunglasses, with
polarized ski goggles for those of you who like to do some snowboarding or skiing or.
Watch out for Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. All right.
You're gonna run into her.
I don't know.
You're just standing there.
I don't know that joke.
You missed that?
I missed it.
She went and did a whole trial about she was skiing and like some guy was just standing at the bottom of the mountain and she ran into him. And he's like, I have suffered mental anguish and stuff.
Once he found out it was Gwyneth Paltrow, he
yeah,
sued
right.
her ass.
Ah, my arm, it's broken. Yeah.
My neck,
No,
my
it was-
back,
it was,
my
yeah, it
back
was like a
and my
big
neck.
story. He was just trying to get money from Gwyneth Paltrow. And they are like, no, don't stand at the bottom of a mountain, ass. Okay, anyway.
Sell out a court for $25. All right. Anyway, back to our Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last and won't get sued if you hit somebody. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class product that's just as good, but I say even better. They're too humble at Shady Rays. They're better than any expensive pair that I've ever worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures like sitting in traffic on the Edens. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by their lost and broken replacements program. If you lose or break your pair, even on the very first day, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. You can wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. And together with their customers, through the Shady Rays Impact Initiative, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the United States. Everything from building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime. Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others just like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusive for our CHGO listeners, the only people that loves you more than us, is Shady Rays because they're giving you this amazing deal. Use the promo code CHGO at shadyrays.com and you'll get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. So you could try yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 folks.
That's a lot of folks.
A lot of folks.
And hey, fellas, did you guys know that the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve by helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future?
As a matter of fact, I did know that, Jay. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Let me know more about how that works.
I'll do just that. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, projected costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, do not wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz, B-I-Z.
Is that comed.com/poweringbiz?
Yes, it is, Jay. Schedule your appointment today.
That was aggressive. I'm going to now out of fear. Hey, want to remind everybody, it is Bears draft week, my friends.
Bears.
Join the CHGO Bears crew, Goose Island Brewing, and other diehard fans for an NFL draft party at Joe's Bar on Weed Street. I don't know if I can do the whole read that way. Should I try it?
You can try.
The NFL draft is here, and we're throwing 2 parties you won't want to miss, my friends. Come out to Joe's Bar on Weed for an experience that includes an extended CHGO Bears live show, draft coverage, and a premium drink package. You can purchase night 1, round 1 on Thursday, night 2, rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, or both. Each night must be purchased separately. There's a general admission, reserved table seating, VIP booth seating, and VIP seating right in front of the stage. Get speckled in Adam Hogue spittle, my friends. We'll have giveaways, CHGO merch available for purchase. All tickets include an all-inclusive premium drink package that includes Goose Island beers and cocktails from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the main front bar of Joe's. Food will be available for purchase from the Joe's Bar kitchen. I'm sure there is sausage involved. Event is 21 plus and entrance with a valid ID only. All right.
Wonderful.
AllCHGO.com to get your tickets, my friends.
Bears.
Yeah.
Bears.
It'll be a good time. I'll be there Thursday.
It took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
I need a nap, more so than usual.
Oh.
All right, who's next on our Mailbag Monday, our bursting sacks? All right.
We are now on Twitter.
This is the Floose is loose.
Speaking
of
of Bears.
Good
the
timing.
Bears.
Yeah.
Bears.
Do you see the Hawks trying to be a team in free agency where they sign cheap vets to try to trade them later in the year again and take on bad contracts for assets? Or do you think they stick with the majority of what they have and continue to develop young players? I think it's option A. I think we have one more year of that. Maybe a little bit less of it than last year, but I would expect a couple free agents, a bad contract or two brought in, and then flip them at the deadline. And then I think next year becomes where the youth infusion really starts. Not next year, but 2 years from now.
I think both of these are true.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do a little bit of both. I think you're not going to see an entire roster built up, all the holes plugged with veterans or players on bad contracts. I think you're gonna have some of those spaces filled by younger players coming up. I think it's all but guaranteed Lukas Reichel is a full-time NHLer next year. I think he has to be. I think Alex Vlasic comes up. I wonder what they do with Wyatt Kaiser. I think he'll probably go to Rockford for most of the season, kind of like they did with Vlasic this past year.
I like that idea.
Isaac Phillips is a guy that I think could also come up defensively. I don't think they really have any forwards besides Lukas Reichel that's going to come up. Like, I don't think you're really investing too much time in, Brett Seney, David Gust coming up next year and being long-term NHL players.
Gutman will be here.
Gutman, I forgot about him. Gutman and Reichel are probably the two young guys for forwards that are going to come up and be full-time NHLers.
I think Athanasiou is coming back because they didn't trade him. I don't know. Why not trade him?
Because he didn't sound like, I want to come back here and do this again.
He sounds like a guy who doesn't understand free agency. I don't really have a choice on where I go.
Yeah, that was weird.
You need a new agent, sir.
Yeah. Well, if only one team's calling, you really don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Domi could come back.
Yeah.
Somebody like Kessel.
Domi. Yeah. The thing with the free agency class is there's no one.
It's bad.
There's no one that you're like looking at that you're like, oh, this is a person who you're gonna bring in and gonna be here for a while as they build and hope to contend again with this person that you sign. Like, there's no one really like that. So. Yeah, I think you're going to get probably 2 or 3 guys like Domi and Athanasiou this past season. Maybe both of them. I would rather, if I had to choose, I'd rather have Domi back than Athanasiou. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of both of those things going on. And as far as bad contracts, I mean, yes, they have to get to the cap floor, but you also don't want to just have a bunch of, like, garbage players eating up so much money that, you kind of you don't want to handcuff yourself when it comes to like, oh, well, we need roster space and money space. Like, I know they're not going to take on bad contracts so they're up to the cap ceiling, but like, you also don't want to like, screw yourself.
I'm trying to see, to me, that's what's really interesting is like, how are they going to get to the cap floor? Like, how much they need to spend to get there? Do we know, like, roughly?
It's like 18 million, something like that, to get to the floor.
Mean, that's doable. Maybe that's a lot of money.
I'm looking at guys that bad contracts that maybe have 1 year left on their deal. And I'm not seeing a whole lot that's jumping out of
Lucic
it.
got one more year?
He's a free agent.
Okay.
He's done. So that dream dies, thank God. Do you try and take a guy like Jacob Silfverberg, for 1 year at $5.2 million if the Ducks are willing to give you a little something?
I don't hate that.
Depends what's going on in Calgary. They've got a couple of defensemen they may want to get rid of.
I feel like if they're doing the bad contracts thing, it'd be forwards. Because I think defense, they want
you don't really
flexibility.
need. Do you want to take a year of Mike Hoffman off the Canadians' hands for $4.5 million? That's a guy.
Silfverberg and Hoffman give you $10 million right there.
Yeah, and those are guys
that's half of what you need to spend.
And those are guys that if they do anything,
it's wonderful.
You can get something for them. You know, again, another guy. There's other guys out there, but those are the types of guys you're going to need to look for. A Nino Niederreiter, do you take on his deal? Stuff like that. You're not going to find next year's free agency class is not very good.
No, it's the summer of 24 that you get excited about.
There's not a lot of guys that it's a lot of really old guys. I mean,
which is fine. If you get an old guy on a 1 year deal and try and flip.
But these are guys that are going to here's your top 5 UFAs according to Cap Friendly: Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane.
Okay.
Vladimir Tarasenko.
Now the list starts.
Ryan O'Reilly, James Van Riemsdyk. You're not bringing. None of those guys are signing here for 1 year. Those guys are going to get. They're going to get legit. They're going to get offers from contenders.
Yeah.
John Klingberg, Max Pacioretty, Sean Monahan.
Those guys are not looking to.
There's Lucic. Lucic is a guy you can maybe bring in with the idea of possibly flipping him. If you get Milan Lucic for $2 million and then somebody wants to get that tough guy for the playoffs.
I wonder what his.
Sure.
I honestly don't know. How is he as a teammate?
I think people like
him. I think teammates like him because of what he does.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at it, he was at Boston for a long time. Like he was in Calgary for a while. Like there was once Calgary got him, you never heard much of anything about. Well, we got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, right.
It was more of us thinking stuff like that. So
and I think too. When considering free agents and stuff, you also got to consider how they fit with what Richardson wants to do schematically, and because a guy like Lucic, I think, just kind of muddies up what they want to do. Yeah. So you could bring him in just to say we brought him in, got some money on the books and whatnot, but they also got to play and fit the right system.
Two guys that I kind of think, one guy I don't know if he's going to play or if he wants to go elsewhere is Kyle Okposo. I think he'd be a good fit.
Buffalo captain?
I mean, he's a free agent. He's 35. He's had his injury problems. Yeah. Buffalo might be ready to move on. It could be like, hey, our young guys are here. We're ready to take that next step. He might be a guy that, though, like a Jonathan Toews, he's dealt with a lot of concussions and a lot of injuries. He might be like,
might be time.
What am I going to do it for?
But a guy that I think could be an interesting target, and I lost him. Where did he go? So interesting. I forgot who he was, and now I don't know where he is.
Well, somebody said, what about taking on a contract like Oliver Ekman-Larsson? They're not going to do something like that because he's signed through 2026, 27.
Here's the other guy.
It's a year or two. It's going to be like a Mrazek sort of a thing if they do it again.
You're not taking on Bobrovsky. You're not taking on Oliver Ekman-Larsson because then that starts to screw with your salary cap when you're ready to contend and spend money. Lars Eller is the guy I was thinking.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's a guy that got Colorado traded for at the trade deadline this year. So obviously there's value there. So if he doesn't really get, he's a guy that he's a center. You need centers all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. Bring him in and be like, hey, you're going to be our top line center. You're going to have the opportunity to play top minutes, and then we'll get you to another playoff run. You're not good. Like if he's signed right away by a contender, he's probably going to be third, fourth line center. He signs here. He's your top line center on opening night.
Yeah.
Gets a chance to maybe, get himself a 2 or 3 year deal the next year around, kind of like Max Domi did.
He's up there a little bit, though, isn't he? He's like 33.
He's 34. But,
But, yeah.
When you're a face-off defensive guy, people want you. So those are the types of free agents I think you're looking for. And then much like last year, and you'll see more young guys next year, but it's not going to be all young guys. Reichel, Gutman, Vlasic. I think Isaac Phillips is going to get a chance to play up here quite a bit.
Soderblom will be
will be here.
Yeah.
Yep.
There'll be some guys.
There'll be more real prospects playing. There'll be more guys that have a chance to matter when we're good again this year or this coming up season than we saw this past season.
And we might also have Connor Bedard or Adam Fantilli.
Lord willing.
Can we remember to talk a little bit about Isaac Phillips this week? I know we got a lot of questions to get to, but I'm just kind of, maybe we can just do it real quick here. How do you feel that his stock has gone with the organization this year? Do you think it stayed the same, gone up, gone down?
I think he's still looked at as an NHL player with the organization. I don't think he's in a position where he's going to be buried. I think that happened to a guy like Jakub Galvis, who Scott Powers earlier this month said is likely going to go back to Europe once the season's over, which is surprising because he had a kind of NHL tryout last year and I looked fine, for a young guy. So I don't think Phillips is getting buried at this point with the young defensemen that are coming in. He's still in the mix, but I think, this year was an opportunity to take a step forward. I think he took a little bit of a half step forward. I think he should be probably fighting for NHL time in training camp, and I would love to see him get it. So yeah, I think he's still on the upper level of where the organization wants him to be.
Yeah, they're still big fans of him. They like his physicality. He could skate, be physical, and scored a huge power play goal the other night in Iowa. So they haven't used him on the power play a ton this year, but if they're using him in the playoffs, and he does good there, that's just another feather in his cap going forward.
All right, next question comes from Adam. Says, should the Hawks make an offer sheet for Alexis Lafreniere? If the Hawks get the third, who should they target? Let's start with the second question first. If the Hawks pick third, I'm going with Carlson. How about you guys?
Yes.
I just like the safety of that pick.
I also go with Carlson. And the argument of you're going to wait for him as well. Sure, but
on our own terms.
I think it's more on what the organization wants than what the KHL will allow.
I go Carlson too, but I won't be mad at Michkov.
No.
Okay. And then the first question on the offer sheets. The offer sheets almost never happen.
I wish they would more, but there's a
they're
reason.
Fun.
There's a reason they don't. Because you do have to give up quite a bit if you sign a guy to. It all depends on how long you sign him and what the cap hit is.
So let's play a game. What would it take to offer sheet him and to have the Rangers decline?
Lafreniere, I don't necessarily want to. That's not the guy I use an offer sheet.
Sure. But just for funsies. Somewhere between 6 and 8, would you think? For him? 6 and 8 million?
I wouldn't do it. Because if you do 6 and 8 million, you have to give up a first round, a second round, and a
That's
third
what I'm
round
saying.
pick.
Yeah. That would go completely against
you're not
what
in
Davis
a position
is
to
trying
do that.
Right. And that's why it almost never happens, because you're going to, even if you were to offer sheet Connor McDavid, you're going to have to give up 4 first round picks for a guy like that.
Right.
That costs your franchise. It really, it's a lot to give up.
The Hawks aren't in a position to start giving away first, second round draft picks. No. They're not there yet. And if you offer sheet Lafreniere for $5 million, the Rangers are just going to match it.
Right.
So it's pointless.
So that's the thing, is the offer sheet has to be high enough for the team to balk, and you have to give up a ton to get. Yeah. You almost always overpay for the player.
Yeah.
Then you've got to give the compensation. It's almost never worth it.
No.
Yeah.
No. You see it every once in a while, when the
Canadians and Hurricanes went back and forth.
But they did it for 1-year deals where there's very little compensation. Mm-hmm. It's like a second or third round pick.
Plus, you've got a great free agency class next summer.
Yeah, there's no reason to do it.
Yeah,
not for And again,
and Lafreniere's a good player. He's young,
but he's not worth a first, a second, or third.
Right? No.
Plus the $6 to $8 million cap hit for the next 4 years. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
The only time I really had fun with an offer sheet was, our pals, the Arizona Coyotes, are benefiting from it right now, is when the Flyers offer sheeted Shea Weber. That's what led to the Predators giving him that ridiculous 14-year contract, which the Coyotes are now using to hit the cap floor. So
way to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
14-year contracts. Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
Boy. Duncan Keith ruined that for everybody.
All right, this one from Team Dick. Did I say it right? What else would it be?
I think so.
Are you back to your Chicago accent again?
Team Diek says, it seems quite a few goals were scored against the Hawks that deflected off the skate of their defensemen. Is this just bad luck, or do adjustments need to be made? Mostly bad luck.
Mostly bad luck.
Yeah, you could see a guy in a bad position here or
It
there.
happens
But
to every team.
Yeah.
As you just remember, you're watching more Hawks games than you're watching other teams.
My thing about that is, like, if you're in front of the goalie, either block the shot or get the F out of the way.
Yeah.
If you can't get to the shot to block it, just move and let the goalie see it and absorb it. But off of sticks, off of skates, it's a defenseman trying to make a play, and it's just a bad bounce.
And sometimes it's just a guy standing there.
Yeah.
Like, not even necessarily trying to block the shot, but the initial shot is going wide, and then it hits his skate or hits his shin pad and deflects the other direction that, it had no original business going, and there's nothing you can do about shots like that.
Mostly
sometimes.
bad luck, and it happens to every team, believe it or not. Not just Seth Jones.
Yeah.
All right, Walters Ringer, who's been with us since day one, chimes in with his thoughts on the draft. Says, I've made up my mind. If the Blackhawks get third or fourth pick, they have to take Michkov over Karlsson. He's a better, more talented prospect. If he comes over in 2026, so what? It's not like the Hawks need him next year anyway. At that time, they might be ready to roll. I agree with you.
You're right.
Except for the percentage chance that he never comes here. And there is a percentage chance of that.
Yeah. I think that's the major hesitation. Like, outside of Bedard and probably Fantilli, you're waiting another 1 or 2 seasons for whoever you pick, third, fourth, fifth, at least with Michkov, with Karlsson, or let's say Will Smith. Like, the percentage chance that they don't ever come to the organization is almost zero.
Right.
With Michkov, I don't know, but it's more than
it's not zero.
It's not zero.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what you're rolling the dice on there. If they take Michkov, I'm not going to be sad.
No.
He is the second best player.
But it's going to be constant fear until he signs.
Yeah, if they take him, you're also taking it with the grain of salt that, like, hey, now we're behind the 8 ball.
And there's so little access. There's so little, like, you really don't. I mean, look, the dude's dad turned up in a friggin' pond like a month ago.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's
for where the Hawks are right now and the importance of this draft, it scares me. Yeah. If they do it, okay, I'm on board and I'm trusting, based on everything we know about Kyle Davidson, that due diligence has been done.
Right.
And he's not just doing it willy-nilly. So I have a little faith in it then. But as of this moment, I'm not touching
I'm
that.
willing to bet NHL executives know more about his situation than we do. I'm just going to throw that out there, that they probably got a little more insider information about those possibilities. They're weighing the risk. If Michkov was born in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan,
he'd be number 2.
People would be making the debate to take him number 1 overall.
Gordy Mitchell.
Well, yeah, because he probably would have played more than 4 minutes a night in the cage.
He's that talented. He's the second best player behind Connor Bedard in this draft, and he's not that far behind Connor Bedard.
Not 50 miles of crap or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's everything Walters Ringer said is 100% true. But there's that itchiness, that unknown factor. And yes, there's an unknown factor with every single guy you draft.
Sure, absolutely.
But his is unknown factors that are out of your control. And that's what scares you.
And Rick
guys
says,
can be busts, but you have control over guys that bust out.
Exactly.
You don't necessarily have control over him.
Rick says that the Hawks take Michkov, that can help even more with the tank next year, which can give you a chance at Macklin Celebrini. That's true, but
I don't want to do another season of one.
I also think it's only Bedard or Fantilli are going to come right over. And even Fantilli's not a certainty.
Right.
Isn't Bedard the only guy in the draft who's like guaranteed to play in the league next year?
Yeah.
Probably. So it's the same thing.
There's a chance Fantilli goes back and plays at Michigan a second year.
Yeah.
Like Owen Power did that as the number 1 overall pick. Right, yeah.
Why not?
They don't their season next season, if they pick Adam Fantilli, doesn't live and die on Adam Fantilli playing in Chicago.
A year, if they get Fantilli and he goes back to Michigan, you get a year of Fantilli and Nazar playing together. That only makes that duo better when they get in Chicago, because you can throw them on the ice together right off the bat.
Right.
And they've got that chemistry from day one.
Yep.
And even if they get, let's say they go with Karlsson, he's a guy that could come over and play in Rockford next year. Like he doesn't, like he might stay in Sweden, but he could come right over to North America and play
And
in
if he's
Rockford.
great in camp, then maybe he plays at the NHL level too. There's a shot.
Yeah.
But I think the only guy 100% certain to play in the league next year is Bedard.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, you'll probably get 2 or 3 guys that are there opening night, but how many of those guys are there at the end of the season?
Right.
Yeah.
Bedard's the only guy that is going to play all 82 games next year if he's healthy.
And I think on the Michkov thing, it'll be really interesting. I don't know if it's confirmed or not yet that he'll be at the combine, but it'll be really interesting to see, what kind of comes out from combine interviews with teams. So that'll be with him. So that'll be interesting.
Definitely. All right, this one's long.
3-parter.
I'm going to try to
You
squint.
want me to read it?
Can you, yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, you
Can
read it.
I'm my old man eyes. I can't see that.
So starts out from Ted 808. Sorry, it's a little bit long, but there's some context needed. I've been thinking about what this team looks like when contending for a cup again, but now I think it's a very different thing from what it looks like after or when they make the playoffs. That's one of 3. Goal and D appear to be ahead of the offense, but the Richardson-Davidson model is players with speed, high compete, high energy. They win games they aren't supposed to. I can imagine them sneaking into the playoffs ahead of quote-unquote schedule with an intense, aggressive, low-event team. They probably won't make a deep run until the offense catches up, but I wonder if squeaking into the playoffs is the thing that happens while we're waiting for the rebuild to finish.
Never say never.
I think if you
But
get
also probably not.
if you get Bedard, that conversation can talk. You could start talking about it
Mm-hmm.
because I do think that accelerates the rebuild a little bit. Because you're like, we got this kid, we might as well do something with him and bring in some help for him. I mean,
I think there's a difference in this idea if you're talking about next year or like 24-25.
I think 24-25
is the year that maybe if
I
everything
think-
goes right,
Yeah. Maybe
you're-
you see a really young team who maybe catches fire that they're
it
not
all
supposed
depends
to.
on if you target or land any of those really talented potential free agents that summer. If you have a counter Bedard and just say for argument's sake you get one of the 2 big prizes that could be free agents coming out of Toronto,
Right.
sure, that team should give a run for a playoff spot, especially in a Western Conference where the bottom half of the Western Conference playoffs are not as strong as the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Granted, that can change over the next 2 seasons. Yeah, I'm not worried about sneaking into the playoffs next season.
No.
24-25 could be, I'm not saying that's the year to get ready for postseason, but depending on who they got in this draft and the development of the guys from last year, the last 2 draft classes, and if that's the year Kyle Davison decides to go after the big free agents, you could see a team that could be like the Ottawa Senators or the Buffalo Sabres were this year, right there until the end, and just not enough, but taking that step forward to where 25-26 could be the year where you're like, all right, this is it.
Pieces are in
We're
place.
ready to make a run here.
And that's understanding that that's probably best case scenario.
That's if everything goes right.
That-
That's if you get
that's
Connor
that's
Bedard.
all the check boxes
Yeah.
have to be marked off for that
Yeah.
to be on that track. I think one of the really interesting things that will happen over the next 2 seasons is what's going to happen with goaltending. Because yes, Drew Commesso is going to be playing pro next year. Arvid Soderblom is going to be in the NHL next year, but you can't. I don't think you can look at it and say, okay, 24-25 is Commesso and Soderblom, and here we go. Like, those are 2 young guys that are still getting experience at the pro level. For Soderblom, it's at the North American pro level. It's all and goalies take some time. So,
Yep.
I don't think we can hang our hat that Commesso is going to be, his BU counterpart Jake Ottinger. Like, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful.
really great.
That'd be best case scenario. But I don't think we can bank on that happening. So, yeah, I think 24-25, if things go well as they can, I think that's the regular season games get really exciting.
all right. I know our next one's from our friend Region Rev, asking about Max Domi's playoff performance and what we've made of it this season. I mean, 0 points, -3, 24 penalty minutes. Not a lot happening on the score sheet for Domi.
Yeah,
He's kind of reverting back to the Max Domi his reputation he gained. But
yeah.
some of those penalty minutes was jumping on Matt Dumba after the hit on Joe Pavelski, and
Yep.
we've seen him do that plenty. I mean, he's a guy that he's playing the role that he's supposed to down there, which is different than the role that he had here.
Yeah.
He's not a top 6 forward on the Stars. He's a bottom 6 guy. He's a guy that needs to be that guy that goes out there and makes the big hit. It's a little disappointing he doesn't have a point in 4 games yet, but again, he's playing a different role for the Stars.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Stars probably would like that 0 to be a little higher.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'd like a little more from him, except that, I'd like less trips to the penalty box and more trips to the, giving fist bumps as he skates past his buddies on the bench. Mm-hmm. But that's the role he's playing there. But, they could definitely use some more offense right now. They're in a tough series. That was a great game yesterday. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Jake Ottinger, man, that guy, some huge saves down the stretch.
Yep.
Some controversy in that game as well. That's a great series. That's going to go all 7.
I hope it does.
So, yeah. But, Max Domi, I would think if I'm a Stars fan, based on what was given, what was given up to get him and the numbers he was putting up while here, I'd be a little disappointed so far.
Yeah. Hey, the fewer playoff points, the higher chance that is there's going to be less people clamoring to get him in free agency, and the easier it would be for the Blackhawks to be a good option for him.
All right, is this our last one, Kevin? All right, last one comes from Nathan. He says, forget the normal gamesmanship of the playoffs. Is it me or are coaches, players, fans, and even media outlets complaining/blaming officiating way more than normal this year? What is your take? Is the officiating that bad, or are certain teams, Toronto, Edmonton, just whiners?
It can be both.
Yeah, it can be both.
There's a lot
It's a little bit of
correct
both.
in both of those statements. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the officiating hasn't been great, but yes, the complaining about officiating from coaches, players, media, everybody, fans, is blown out of proportion. It's the same thing every year.
Anytime Toronto's involved, everything is amplified.
Of any Canadian team, especially Toronto, problems like this get way more attention, way more time talked about it. But and I agree. I initially, when the first 3 nights of the playoffs, all you heard about was officiating. We talked about it. I was just like, just get over it. Like, officiating is always bad in the playoffs. But it's been, now that I'm continuously watching it, I'm like, wow, it really has been horseshit. Like, it's been horrible. And honestly, when Gary Bettman speaks to the media during, I think it's right before Stanley Cup final, he'll usually have his postseason State of the Union or whatever. If it doesn't improve over the next few rounds, and I don't expect it to, because why would it? Every single question to Gary Bettman should be, what are you doing to improve officiating? Because it really has been awful. Like, and yeah, it's being talked about so much, but I think now the more I've watched the playoffs, I'm like, you know what? As much as it's annoying to listen to people complain about officiating, it has been awful.
Yeah, it's bad, but again, you get guys like Sheldon Keefe, Toronto Maple Leafs head coach, head whiner. He goes out of his way to discuss in his postgame about the fight, saying Tampa Bay manipulated the fight that wiped out a power play with Stamkos going after Matthews, and saying, well, there was a great play by them. They know how to manipulate the system. That's why they've won championships, blah, 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 blah.
Not do with talent.
But you're complaining about a refs in a game you won, in a game that Tampa had a goal taken off the board that probably shouldn't have. Hey, Sheldon, shut it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just stop. Your team won a game that they did not deserve to win. Maybe just move on, because Tampa should have been up 4-2 instead of 3-2. But you're going to complain about that. Why didn't Steven Stamkos get a second penalty there?
Yeah.
Give me a break. And then Marcus Foligno has been the victim of a couple of bad calls against him in that game against Dallas. But my take on that is, maybe don't yell at the referees all game for 3 games in a row, and maybe they give you the benefit. Maybe they're just tired of hearing from you.
I'm tired of hearing
and like,
from
you know what? You're anywhere near it, it's on you, because I'm tired of hearing. God, playing against that guy must be exhausting. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't shut up. Like, he's the type of guy that, God, I wish I had him on my team, but he's not. So, God, it's got to be physically and mentally exhausting playing against him or officiating a game. So for him, it's like, maybe keep your mouth shut a little while, and you won't get those calls against you.
That matters. I was just scrolling through TikTok this morning, and I saw somebody put out like a Wes McCauley highlight tape, and he's just like, he calls a penalty, and a guy, he's like, you can't do it. He's like, yes, I can. I can do what I want. I'm the ref. And maybe that's not right.
Yeah.
But like, if you get a guy in the wrong mood, and you've been in his ear the whole series, and your stick got out there and hit a skate, that's a trip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to hear it.
Well,
they don't want to hear from you.
And I think that's the problem. And to the original questions, is like, the gamesmanship of the playoffs. Like, when officiating, when everyone knows officiating changes in the postseason, and in the NHL, when it's like, oh, okay, here's one penalty for this team. Okay, next one. Now we're even. Okay, here's two. Now we're even. Now there's two. When that's how games are called, and it's not just like, oh, team A is being a bunch of shitheads, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 penalties and 0 over here. If that's the case, like, then you know that there's going to be things that players and coaches and post game media and things that are going to be public. Like, that's when there's going to be tactics done to try and manipulate things, and that is, it's if the door is open to manipulate something in your favor, you're going to do it. Players, coaches, they're going to do it. So the problem is that door is open because the officiating isn't. I don't think it's regulated well enough, and it's not uniform enough. It's down to, oh, Wes McCauley's calling the game today. Okay, I know I can get away with this. If I say this, he's going to do that. Like, I think that's a huge problem. And this isn't me saying we need robot umps. This is it's the rule book in the playoffs needs to either be completely tossed out and they're just there to make sure no one dies, or it's the same thing from the regular season.
Agree.
You either carry it over or you don't.
A penalty is a penalty. And you could argue that, if anything, they should be more willing to call penalties in the playoffs because the games matter more. And if you're not calling penalties, you're punishing the skill players that get their teams to the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah, they don't want in the effort to not be the reason that games are decided, they're actually becoming the reasons games are decided.
Exactly.
One thing I will give the officiating credit for in this postseason, it's happened a bunch of times already, and I applaud them, is to call the 5-minute major right off the bat and then review it and make sure. I really like that process, and because a lot of times they're calling the major because they know they can go back and look at it. And like we saw it with the Matthew Dumba hit on Joel Pavelski, and there was another play that's was in the Toronto-Tampa game, maybe. I can't. It's all blending in the one game now.
But the Morgan Riley hit.
Yeah, that was that. They reviewed that too, but they're getting it right. So I don't have a problem with them just quickly calling a major because they know they can then look at it and get the correct call. So as much heat as they've been under. And then there was that high stick call in the Oiler game last night where they were just they looked at it. Did Gabe Velarde's stick touch that puck? Probably, but you couldn't really tell, so they let it go. And like again, so as much criticism as they deserve, when they do get things right, you got to give them credit for that too. And the whole reviewing the 5-minute major thing, I've become a big fan of that.
I just can't wait till we get an offsides review or a goaltender interference review because those always go well.
Well, that's to me that's more on the system than the I hate replay. I hate replay. Replay is great in theory, but usually sucks in practice because it takes it. No matter what sport, it takes what used to be a black and white play and turns it into a million shades of gray. Yeah, like we don't know what a catch is anymore in football because of replay. We don't know what offside is or goalie interference is anymore, because you're allowing different interpretations of the same rule. If those reviews went to the same guy in Toronto every time and he ruled the same way every time, it'd be fine. But does anybody know what goalie interference is anymore? No. Because you've got 35 different interpretations of it being used on a given night.
That seems like one that should be only called if it's obvious.
Right.
You know? Here's my thing. If you call the goalie interference and it takes away a goal, shouldn't there also be a penalty? Shouldn't the goal count and the team gets a power play?
Well, that's too big of a swing. You can't do that. That's the gray area that annoys everybody. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Before we go, make sure you smash that like button. I want to remind you as you know, the NHL playoffs are underway, as is baseball season. And if you want to cut the cord and want to watch the Cubs, the only place to do it is with Fubo TV. Go to FuboTV.com/CHGO. I switched to Fubo. Here's why you should too. 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device. You can watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. Start watching immediately with a 7-day free trial at FuboTV.com/CHGO. There's no contract. There's no cable. There is no hassle. You just sign up and you start watching. You get 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge, and you can watch all your local teams while you're traveling. You got the NFL draft this week. The NHL draft is coming up. You got the playoffs underway in basketball and hockey. Cubs on Marquee, Sox on NBC Sports. They're all there at Fubo TV. Watch your favorite team with Fubo TV. Use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. I love the multi-picture. I watch 3 games at once. Love it. FuboTV.com/CHGO.
And if you want to watch some games that you're placing some wagers on, do it through DraftKings. It's NBA playoffs time as well as NHL playoffs time, which means big hoops action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Get in on the excitement of every game with the touch of a button. New customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Plus, everyone can score a no-sweat same-game parlay every day during the NBA playoffs. Open the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus bet back up to $10. So download the app now. Sign up with the code CHGO. When you do that, new customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins, only at DraftKings Sportsbook with the code CHGO. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Nice. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus in most eligible states, but ages vary by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling sources.
Well done, Mario.
Thank you.
Nailed it. Knocked it out of the park.
Can I mention two things?
Yeah.
One, really quickly. From Sweden, Warschau are the SHL champions, which means Victor Sternborg is an SHL champion.
Getting that ring.
Congratulations to him. He had 2 points tonight in the 3-0 win to win the SHL championship. So congratulations to young Victor. And also, we have gone all show without mentioning today is the 13-year anniversary of friend of the program, Marian Hossa, scoring the overtime winner against Nashville in overtime of Game 5.
My knees still hurts.
Quite the anniversary.
I was there that day in my old section 321 and jumped up when Hossa scored and missed the landing, and my knee still hurts. I could tell you when it's going to rain because of that. Totally worth it.
Oof, that's brutal. It's a good memory, though.
Hey, every time I wake up and my knee hurts, I'm like, thank you, Marian.
You smile a little bit. Yep. Exactly right. All right, thanks for joining us. Region Rev brings up a good point. Buy your Ice Hogs tickets early.
Yes.
I think the 3 of us are going to be there Friday. I know at least some of us will be there Friday. So get your tickets and come find us by the Hamboni. Love that, the Hamboni. Because it's a pig, Ice Hogs, and it's a ham.
Yeah.
Boni, and it's like Zamboni. Did you get it, Kevin? Do you understand?
I got it.
I
love that too.
It's a Hamboni.
I get it now.
Ham is in hog, pig, Zamboni.
Bacon,
it's a play on words.
Not
what
a bacon bony?
No, that does not roll off the tongue quite as well. But bacon does. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I will be beardless at some point during the show. T's and P's. We'll talk to you then on a CHGO Blackhawks podcast.